This is not Cal-Am's version of Felton. This is a real Felton person, Jim Mosher, with the facts.
Hello, Monterey. It's great to be here from the north side of the bay. And my story is going to be very similar to the last story. The details are different, but the themes are exactly the same. In Felton, we had Cal-Am. They took over our water district in 2002 when they bought out Citizens Utilities. At that time, according to the PUC filings, we were valued at $2 million. Now, Cal-Am claims that we said that we thought it was worth $2 million. And 6 years later, when we went into eminent domain, that's not true. What we said was, when you got it, it was valued at $2 million, not by us, but by the PUC. So, $2 million in 2002. So that was one of their first lies. But we faced a lot of what you faced. We had skyrocketing costs, same as in Ojai. There was no accountability. We called the Public Utilities Commission the Private Utilities Commission because that's exactly what they did to us. We went up there 3 times protesting rate increases. We were getting proposed rate increases of 10, 15% a year, just like you. And our rates were skyrocketing. We were right next to a public utilities district. People 1 block away from some of our customers were paying half for the same water delivery. We also had a company that had no interest in regional planning, no interest in conservation or environmental protection. We live the San Lorenzo Valley Water District. We live in the San Lorenzo Valley. We're very concerned about protecting our river valley. It's a critical issue and asset for all of us who live there. So when we started our takeover project, we organized an organization called Flow, Friends of Locally Owned Water. And Cal-Am started doing exactly what they're doing to you. Lots of misinformation, lots of scare tactics, lots of blatant lies like the $2 million lie and mischaracterizing what we were saying. So let's talk a little bit about the cost. When we started the process, Cal-Am said that the system, 4 years after they bought it, was worth $48 million. It went from $2 million to $48 million, according to them. They thought we might not notice, I guess. When we got into the eminent domain process, they came down from that half. They said, we'll sell it to you for $24 million. We had independent appraisals. This is by the San Lorenzo Valley Water District, the public district that ended up taking it over, who we went to and asked for them to represent us. The appraisers came in at $7.6 million, which we thought was certainly reasonable given what it had been valued just a few years earlier. Through the process, we passed the bond. Our bond only passed by 74% of the vote. So Ojai beat us on that one. We had a citizens campaign just like you're running, door to door. Our mailboxes were stuffed with lies and scare tactics by Cal-Am. It really worked against them in our case because we went to door. People were sick of Cal-Am. They knew it was a bunch of lies. And we really built a strong community network to take them on. So we passed it, and then we went into the eminent domain process, just as Ojai did, and just as you will, assuming everything goes according to plan. As I said, Cal-Am claimed it was worth $24 million. They'd sell it for $24 million. The water district offered them $7.6. I won't go into any of the details, but it's the same process. Delay. Lawsuit threats. They took us to court because they claimed that our ballot argument was false, just like they did to you. And we took them on. We won that, just like you won. And it was just a delay tactic. They were just trying to raise our costs. They figured we were a bunch of bumpkins. We didn't know what we were doing, and they'd have high-power attorneys take us on. We surprised them. So we passed the bond measure. We go into the eminent domain process. Delay, and then it comes down to the week before the trial's going to happen. We had a very strong case, just like Ojai. We were going to have a jury making the decision. It was going to be a Santa Cruz County jury. They did not want to have this trial go forward. We kind of knew that, but we had the plan as if we were going to go into the trial. They started actually seriously negotiating, and they said we could have it for $11 million.
Oh my.
The water district, remember now, the water district is representing us, but the ratepayers in that water district were not going to be paying that. We're only 1,400 households, by the way, so we're even smaller than Ojai. We were going to pay that. We were not entirely happy that they went over $3 million from what we thought was an absolutely fair market value. But I understand their decision to decide to do it, because it would have been more, just like in Ojai, more delays, more lawsuits, more costs. And if somehow Cal-Am had won, it would have been a major hit for that water district. And they didn't want to take that risk on if they thought they could get a price that they could afford. Our bond was for $12 million, $11 million for the purchase, $1 million for the cost. Ojai did much better on their costs because we spent most of that $1 million in the process. So they spent the $11 million that the bond raised to buy the system. Cal-Am also demanded $2 million more for land that they owned in the valley that was not associated with our purchase. That's why you have the $13 million price tag. $2 million of that came from the water district to buy watershed land. So it was a total cost of $13 million. The ratepayers, we in Felton, who paid for the cost of that water system, paid $11 million. It came out to about $450 a year, $37 a month is what we're paying to buy our system. So that was the cost. Now let's talk about rates for just a minute. At the time of the buyout, we were paying $69 for 500 gallons of water, the average amount that people were using. And we were facing 15 to 20% rate increases every year from Cal-Am. We are now paying $110 for that same amount of water, and that's 10 years later. So we've had a rate increase of about 6% a year. Now compare that to what you're facing with Cal-Am in that same period, which is somewhere in the range of 16 to 17% a year, which is what we would have had. That's what was happening in our district, the same as with you. Now, we have a unique small district. It's going to be more expensive to deliver water in Felton and in Monterey, partly because of the size, partly because we have mountains everywhere. The main cost of delivering water is electricity to get the water up and down the mountains. So it's expensive. We also had a lot of delayed maintenance. Cal-Am stopped taking care of our district as soon as they bought it. So, and the water district didn't fully realize how much delayed maintenance was going to have to be dealt with. So we've had some rate increases that we had not anticipated. Still, we are paying, even if you don't take all of that 17%, we are saving money from moving from where we were then to now by having a public water system, paying at a relatively high for public water systems, 6% a year. It was only 2 or 3% before we joined them. So we are still saving money, and you were paying a little over half of what we were paying when we bought them out. You and we are now paying about the same. We have some really expensive water also in Felton. But you caught up with us in the period that you stayed with Cal-Am and we went public. And the other thing to remember is you're renting your system. We're buying it. So we're already 6 years in, 10 years in 30 years, our children are going to own this system, and we don't have to deal with the Private Utilities Commission, we don't have to deal with Cal-Am and all of their lies. So we are overjoyed with the success that we've had. And all this BS that Cal-Am is trying to spread around your community, that we're unhappy in Felton about what happened, and we're paying all this money, and there's been a total outrage, it's all BS. Absolutely BS. Now, they can find a few people in Felton that are unhappy. That happens everywhere. But the overwhelming majority of ratepayers in Felton are very happy because of the savings of the money and getting them out. So having said that, I want to tell you that the thing that motivated me most for doing this was not the money. It was the fact that water should be a human right and not a commodity. And this was the theme. This was the theme of our community group from the get-go. We wanted to have our water be controlled locally so we could make decisions about it. We could ensure that our valley was protected and that the people making decisions about water were taking into account the public interest, riparian protection, water protection, protect our river, protect our valley from fires. We wanted regional planning, and that's what our water district does now. Cal-Am wouldn't attend any regional meetings. They have no interest in cooperating with anybody. Think about now that we're dealing with climate change, all of these fires, our valley is a high fire risk area. We need a water district that understands this and does stuff to protect us and prepare us for the changing that are coming with the climate. Cal-Am has absolutely no interest in any of this. You are part of an international movement. When we did this 10 years ago, we found out that Bolivia had had a civil disruption and kicked out a government as a result of the government trying to get Bechtel to take over their water district and raise their rates tenfold overnight. There's international actions in every continent in the world to make water a human right. And this is what motivated us. So absolutely the costs have to be reasonable. People have to afford it. And we were able to show that and we're able to do it. Just as you're going to be guaranteed that through the feasibility study that you're taking on. But remember that this is bigger than just the money. This is a fundamental issue for the future of humans. What the companies understand is that we're going to have chronic water shortages from now on. And what do they see? They see blue gold. My gosh, it's a commodity that's going to be scarce, and if we sell it, we can raise money and we'll make a lot of money. And they've got the PUC right in their back pocket. It's not free enterprise. This is corporate welfare. This is a setup where companies are getting guaranteed profit by the government. It's absolutely crazy. We went to the PUC multiple times. It was such an education for all of us in that community. So I urge you to put all your effort into this, get this done. I know you can do it. We did it in Felton. If we can do it in Felton, you can do it here. Go team.